Hi, it's Jane here doing an acrylic pour. I have a tray that I bought. It's a small little, it's actually something to hang. It looks like a tray and then it has a little bit of a lip. So it's going to be used in my living room. And I used plaster of Paris as well as some bare smoked oyster paint from Home Depot and a water-based acrylic. And I wanted to make this chalk paint out of it. So I used equal parts of the plaster of Paris, the latex, and water. I mixed them with my little popsicle stick here and got it a nice texture, well mixed, and then coated the whole thing, including the back of the wood, with the plaster of Paris mixture, the chalk paint. I will go over that, the edges again, but I use that as the base of my acrylic pour. So I covered the entire tray with that smoked oyster wet mixture, and I used that to do my acrylic pour. Now I only used 4 other colors, 5 really. So I used a teal, which I later mixed with a little bit more black to darken it in places. And I used the smoked oyster with a little bit of white in it. And then I added gold to that. So I've been doing multiple mixes out of the same cups. I used a bright red. I added some of the smoked oyster to it to give it a pink mix, and I poured that into my horizon, which I wanted it to be somewhat Asian inspired because I'm using so much jade and gold, and I have the colors of my walls upstairs are rose gray, so I probably should have used some of that in it too, but I thought that this was close enough. So this is my little mess after, including my rubber gloves, which are of course essential, and my plastic. I use plastic everywhere when I work. And I poured first the horizon of a thick ribbon of the smoked oyster, and to it I added jade, red, a little bit of black, a little black stripe along the horizon, and then I whisked up the white from the smoked oyster into the tree line. What you can't probably see is the color. It looks a little blue in video, but it's really a beautiful mixture of jades that form because it's such a wet mixture, and it gets a little grainy look as it's drying, probably from the plaster of Paris. But as this dries, it's going to be harder than regular paint, and then I'm going to go over it with a purely clear resin coating to make it hard as rock and glass-like. And I'm going to bring that coating right up to the edge of that tray-like board, so that it'll be a flat painting with the chalk paint on the edges in the smoked oyster. It's a beautiful, beautiful outcome. I hope you can see some of the effects here. But it's like using watercolors when you do acrylic pours, in that you get really dreamy little things happening as you tilt it. I tilted it back and forth to get the straight lines across, as well as dragging my popsicle stick across it. It looks like some sort of mountain scene, perhaps with some jasmine or some lavender in the foreground here and there. And it also looks like foggy mountains in the background. It's a very, very, very subtle ribbon that was formed here. Quite special, and I'll share it with you when it's done. I'll show you the last phase. If I had a partner to film with, or had a little stand to prop it up with, I would be doing pouring and filming at the same time, but I don't have that technical capability right now. So that's about it, and let me give you a full view of my little workspace. This was about a 15-minute project, and my acrylic pours have been more abstract than this. Recently, I've been experimenting. Yesterday's I really am not happy with. I'll probably go over it again. It was somewhat of a just a dirty pour in ribbons, and I don't really care for it. It's too basic for me. Some of the successes that I've had in acrylic pouring, where I used silicone, Flowtrol, and excuse the wobbly video here, but I used a mixture of Flowtrol, acrylic paints, craft paints, simple, cheap craft paints. You don't have to spend a lot. And water. So I used equal parts of water, Flowtrol, and craft paint. Got it into a nice liquidy blend. On this one I used dark green, black, white, red, and bright purple, as well as I think some navy blue on this one. This one I did a dirty pour with the darker colors first, and then I went over it with 1 cup where I poured in 4 different paints: white, red, a touch of green, and some tan, and I kind of shaped out a few flowers, and then swirled it around, held it up, and then dragged my popsicle stick, as you see right here, right through here and here, to make the leaves. I poured on some, you know, just very carefully poured it on with my little paper cups, my Dixie cups, and then maybe dragged my popsicle stick through them. Very happy with that one. I also, after it was completely dry, and I had blowtorched it by the way to get the bubbles out, you can see it's got a really, really nice bubble-free surface to it. It was one of my better pours. And of course I went over the edge. This is a good example of a resin pour. And this is somewhat, you know, this is a combination. The one that I just did with the landscape is more realistic. This one was somewhat psychedelic in nature. I guess just let it go and twirled it around, and then I saw flowers, so I enhanced them myself. But generally, the ones that I've been doing have been very, very loose. This next one that I'm going to show you, actually there are 2 that I did at exactly the same time with the same color palettes. These I added silicone, 100% silicone to, which makes cells. And it's a really cool thing that happens. The cells appear out of nowhere. It's a chemical reaction of the Flowtrol acrylic paint, water, and silicone. And they dried up really, really nicely. I did use the blowtorch. The blowtorch does 2 different things. And then, of course, I poured the rest of the little cup full of colors over it when I got to the white at the bottom. The white tends to drop to the bottom of the cup. So got more there, and I just drizzled it over the edge there. On this one, as you can see, the colors were just amazing. Really, really beautiful. These are my favorites of the acrylic pours that I've done. So I'm going to try to get out of this so I don't have any shadow. I'll show you the 2 of those together. I think those make a really nice set. The third of this pour session that I had done is this yellow one, which also came out really, really well. On this one, I believe I used a combination of the silicone and WD-40, which is also a silicone, but it's a different type, with the Flowtrol, water, and acrylic. Really dreamy colors. And on that one, I used green, blue, black, white, and a little bit of red. So you see all the colors that creates when it starts to flow together. the purples that come out with the blues and the reds. So that's that. My husband did two that are amazing. These were the brightest of all of them, and I think the best. There's quite a glare because we do spray them with a glossy finishing spray to get a real glossy effect. But he also did his, he got some cells. There were little tiny bubbles and things that happened, but they looked really cool actually in the finish after. It actually enhances the look of it. We really liked these the way they were, so very, very happy with those. He's just amazing. He's an engineer. He had an engineering background and an accounting background. Excuse me, computer programming as well. So he has masters in computer programming, but boy, does he have a creative eye too. It just came out of nowhere. And then of course he tried to do a flag, which is still a work in progress. But other things that we've tried that weren't as effective as, you know, this one here. I had done this one, which I really liked when it was drying, but it cracked. It cracked a lot. I used too much water in that, obviously. But it really looked really cool. I had spritzed it with some alcohol and some enamel spray of robin's egg blue over it, and it really looked cool when it was drying, but it just didn't work. And we also did it on the wrong surface. I went out and picked up some masonite board, and unless you paint both sides of masonite board, a couple things happen. In this kind of process, it can get too wet. It's something that's it's porous, so unless you you know, put a coat of base coat on it on both sides, it'll warp as well. Bill's warped, as you can see. This is one that you can see it warped a bit. There's another one that I did the same day. We just did these rapid fire, and that one came out pretty cool. I'm not real thrilled about the colors. I'm not into these colors at all. I don't like this burgundy and purple kind of look in the middle here. But I was working with what I had already poured, and so I just kind of grabbed them and did another one here. I do like this corner where there's some orange. I don't know if you can tell, but there's some really nice colors in the corner here. So that's that. Acrylic painting is really fun. Acrylic pouring. These are called dirty pours. You mix the colors separately, then you pour them all into a cup, and then you pour them over the canvas, tilt it, pour a little bit more. You can add other colors separately that are poured separately with silicone, water, and Flowtrol. But this is what happens when it's more contrived. And I didn't put any silicone in this particular one that you're looking at here, so it didn't get any cells, and I like it that way on this one. Looks like a couple eyes staring at us there. That was just accidental, but I really love that one. And then I'm trying to think. I'll go back to the one that I did just now and show you again. I'll scan it for you. I just thought going for a loose jade kind of landscape for my living room. I love that color. I'm just loving it, loving it, loving it. We're getting ready to paint the floors, and I'm trying to find a dark, dark brown because I'm using paint instead of stain. I'm thinking of using mink at this point, or a more black one with a little bit more black in it, since Repose Gray is a grayish that has some black in there. So anyway, and normally I don't pick my artwork to match my room, by the way. I think that's a crazy way for people to pick art. But I was thinking of the living room when I did this, so maybe that's why all these colors appeared. I might just use it out on the porch or somewhere else in the kitchen or somewhere else in my bedroom. but it's got hangers on the top and the bottom, so the top and the sides, so it ended up being a horizontal painting. I'll show you that when I'm done with the next part. Thanks. And it's Jane Hackathorn, writing from Ohio, where we have fun with acrylic pours and resin painting. More to come. Thanks.